Check it out one time.
In the morning, when I'm yawning, give thanks, all the natural, the Aku, my ancestors, for you.
Check it out one time.
6 in the morning, nah, I'm just joking. I stretch a little bit and then let my eyes open. Curtain slide back to reveal the one. Rays trickle down my face, I could feel the sun. I stop for a moment and gaze. Even the baboons at noon raise their hands in praise. From a culture way back that's suspended in time. Let your third eye open, let me free your mind. In the morning, hands raise the sun. Like the incense up and pour a libation. Giving praise, thanking my Aku. Venerate my ancestors and the natural. Every day that I wake, the breath that I take, why not? My lifestyle ain't fake. I give praise to the lessons they brought. I listen in detail to all the information they taught. Grandma and grandpa used to keep me in check. I could find the same lessons in Patah Hotel. Shashank really made me reflect. So when I read the scrolls of the past, there's no disconnect. The incense is a ladder to the pet. I ask you to sit and drink with me, keep me from this fat. Your wisdom grows stronger in death. We cling to your memories and strive for the standard you set. And it's so therapeutic to use it, I had to put it over music so the culture won't lose it. Locked to the spiritual movement. Hip-hop started with boom bap, we ended with boom bap. In the morning, hands raise the sun. Like the incense up and pour a libation. Giving praise, thanking my Aku. Venerate my ancestors and the natural. For the moon and the light, for the stars shining bright, for my Ka and my Ba when my soul takes flight to the north of abyss. All the things I will miss when my side and my heart travel towards Sirius. Up afar, I can tell where they are when I see the Aru. I can even smell the cakes of the saw. When I roam, miss me when I'm gone. I cool, natural, open arms, welcome home. In the morning, hands raise the sun, like the incense up and pour a libation. Giving praise, thanking my Aku. Venerate my ancestors and the natural. Hands up, stand up. ETE, Emetep, Sini Sinet, Anquastajet, Uncle Jasanet, Dua, Henu for listening on this glorious Saturday morning, because it's nice and bright out here today. As you see from the title, we'll be discussing the debate we had just the other day, but we want to get more in depth into the debate. It was a long, drawn out title. El and Yahweh, when two gods become one. Who's the supreme deity of the Bible? Why did God change his name? Etc., etc., etc. Let's hop in, man. Let's hop in. My protagonist for that night was a Hebrew Israelite by the name of El Kasad, who another Hebrew Israelite, Yara, helped and assisted to try to get it together so he could break some of this stuff down. And what I went over, we'll go over this, but we're going to get into the meat and gumbo, which is beyond this presentation altogether. So the origin of El, the origin of Yahweh. Canaanites are different than Israelites. Yahweh, a son of El. Why did God change his name in the Bible? And a closer look at the name. So here we're going to just I'm just going to skim through this. We knew El was way before Yahweh. Just from the Gebel El Arak knife, 3450 BC. And this is supposedly El right here with these two lions. So this is old, well before the other stuff. He was a Canaanite deity. You got a lot of people, oh, they never mention him in the Canaanite, this, that. He's in the Ugaritic text. He's there. He's there. He's also in the Qumran scrolls, which they don't discuss. And so I had to bring that up the other night too, as the debate ended, just because all night, where is El? Where is El? That's what we're hearing from our little brother Kassad. And well, El is in the Qumran tablets. Then I asked him, I said, where is Yah? And today we're going to look at where Yah and El, start to derive, how El becomes not just the surname of the Canaanite god, but he starts to become the name for any god. So you say El, you say Elu, which is short for El. Elohim, which means gods, which Jesus becomes a part of that pantheon. We're going to look at a new, what would you call, crucifixion for Jesus. I think a precursor to it today, which no one ever touches on. And of course, you have Yahweh, which he doesn't even originate in Israel. He's a Syrian god. The Bible tells you that too, though, but you don't read your Bible like that. You just talk about it. So today you're going to go to school a little bit with some of the ancient texts that it comes from, because you don't read your book of coming forth by day either. You're just hard-headed on all counts. But let's go. Let's go. This is where we first find the Shasu Yahuwah, 1304, 1237 BC. So we know El is older. And right here, we can read the metal netter. It says Ta, Sha, Su plant, and this quail chick. And then we got two reed leaves to make the Y sound. This is a het sound right here. And this is U, and this is U plurality. So Yahoo. That would have been the first understanding of the name. So when you start to get the Yeshua, or which is supposedly Jesus's name, but when you start to say Yahweh, you wonder where this A comes from. This is added later. So you see a lot of the Yahwist, they start Yahweh, because that's the closest thing to the original pronunciation of it, as we know. We may want to look at and see why Yahweh is plural anyway, because that's Yahweh. Now, it could just be plural for the people right here, where you see this particular worshiper of him with his arms fettered, because they had beef when they came in, so they got dealt with. But Yahweh is plural, which could mean something. We'll get to that later, though. Let's just kind of skim over this, because if you didn't go see the debate, go see the debate. Y'all know where it's at. Yahweh, God of the Shasu Yahweh, I am that I am. Exodus 3:14. That's what his name means. Remember, El is either the mighty, El Shaddai, God Almighty, or the Most High. Those are his epithets. And so we went over the Kuntalit Adred inscription, which is over here in Israel. Not quite. Not quite. And then we looked at this picture here. Inscription, 9th century BC in the Sinai Peninsula. And this is Yahweh in his first inscriptions. Now, my opponent tried to say this is a picture of Baal, or not a Baal, of Bes. I said, knock it off, B. And then we had to show the difference, how Bes has the panther on the front of his chest, because he represents a priest, etc., etc. And this is a female right here. You see the breast here. You see the breast here. He actually brought up the other rendition of this, which is a no-no. I stayed away from it just from the embarrassment that Israelites might have in seeing something like that. So if I pull up, here, we'll do it for you, right? He said they think it's two guys in the picture, two males. I'm like, why would you bring that up? Let me show you why it's a no-no to bring up that inscription. A lot of gays got behind this. A lot of gays got behind this, just so you know. You see this here? Do you see this right here? They believe this to be two penises and two males. And so God's was gays were saying, oh, Yahweh's gay. It's okay to be gay. It's why I didn't bring it up. It's why I didn't bring it up. Because there's two penises on these gentlemen here. When you go to the original, supposedly. Now, I didn't want to throw him under the... And he brought this up just to try to refute my information. He brought that up. For those who don't know. And I'll be checking on the chat in a minute. Right now, we're busy, right? He brought that. I'm like, what are you doing, kid? You don't want to do that. And he read it. No, they believe it. Look, you can see two males all over the place. You can see two males all over the place. And he had the audacity to bring that forth. Anything to be right. Don't do it. Don't do it. It's bad news. Let's see if we can look at the fragment a little better. That's not the one. They do have the fragment of that vase where you can see what's going on. You can see if it's two males or if it's... See, and this is Kuntalet Azurud right there. That's another thing from it. And we basically find these on vases. We find them on vases. I'm not going... You know what? I'm not going to dig further. Just know, to be right, he tried to bring up a gay rendition of Yahweh. These two here. And they used to run with that thing until somebody took a real picture of the vase to show, no, one is a girl. Now, here goes the other vase, right? This is the one where Yahweh is getting married to his Asherah. Now, he tries to refute my argument by saying it's a tool. There's a tool, but you can see on the vase, there's no tool. There's no tool. What is he talking about? The tool that he would be proposing is a piece that opens the mouth, which is called an Asherah. But it's nowhere in these pictures. And it's nowhere referred to in the text. So it's nonsensical, essentially. And they show you the vase here again. Kuntalid Azra Pithos, Amaria said to my Lord, may you be blessed by Yahweh of Samaria and by his Asherah. Yahweh bless you and keep you and be with you. And you can see him right there getting married. Why would you think otherwise? Why would you think otherwise? They was booed up. It had nothing to do with the Asherah tool in either one of these artifacts. And so he made a silly mistake. It is what it is. It is what it is. And what I'm going to do, let's check the chat real quick. Let's see what's going on. We got my brother Joe in the building. Pan-African Design is in the building. What's going on, gentlemen? What's going on? We about to break this thing down quite a bit today. We're going to have some fun with it. And like I said, we're going to see a new rendition of the Jesus story. So you're going to be the first ones to have this today. We're going to see it in old text time, if you will. So let's go over here. I want to look at, where do I want to start? First, let's go here. Y'all ever seen these books before? Probably not. Probably not. This is the Forgotten Books of Eden. Ahikar, Grand Vizier of Assyria, has 60 wives, but is fated to have no son. Therefore, he adopts his nephew. He crams him full of wisdom and knowledge more than of bread and water. Y'all heard that before? Probably not. Let's read a little bit. The story of Haker, the wise, vizier of Sennacherib. He's advisor of Sennacherib, the king, and of Nadan, sister's son to Haker, the sage. So this is a king of Assyria, and he's a what to Sennacherib? Who's Sennacherib, y'all? The king. And what is he the king of? Egypt. Knock it off. This is how easy some of this is sometimes when they try to mount their arguments. Don't mount an argument you're going to lose, and it's silly. Don't do it with a Saram Ka because I know where these things are at. I just may not get enough time to get to them. Let's read a little further, though. There was a vizier in the days of King Sennacherib, son of Sardon, king of Assyria and Nineveh, a wise man named Hakar, and he was vizier of the king of Sennacherib. He's the king of Assyria, and he's the vizier to Sennacherib. He had a fine fortune and much goods, and he was skillful, wise, a philosopher in knowledge, in opinion, and in government, and he had married 60 women and had built a castle for each of them. So he's doing big things over there. But with all, he had no child by any of these women who might be his heir. And he was very sad on account of this. And one day he assembled the astrologers and the learned men and the wizards and explained to them his condition and the matter of his bareness. And they said to him, go sacrifice to the gods and beseech them that perchance they may provide thee with a boy. And he did as they told and offered sacrifices to the idols and besought them and implored them with request and entreaty. And they answered him not one word. And he went away sorrowful and dejected, departing with the pain at his heart, hurt his feelings because he couldn't have a boy. Who does he consult, y'all? What does that next line, number 9, say? And he returned and implored Elyon, the Most High God. I thought we were told by Kassad he doesn't appear in any of the texts in Syria. We're talking about an Assyrian king, and he's praying to Elyon. And it translates like that. Go look at the original. This one I'm not going to pull up the original for because we got other stuff to do, but you know what that is. We showed it all the other night. And believed, beseeching him with a burning in his heart, saying, O Most High God, O Creator of the heavens and of the earth, O Creator of all created things. I thought he wasn't the Creator God. Remember Yahweh hopped on there? See, he's not that in this text. I said, no. In this line, he is the Creator God. When we discuss Deuteronomy 32:8, I believe, through 9. In this line, he is. When we get a few further down, he's not. He becomes Abba, the Father. But we're going to get to those explanations a little later. But we just need to look at this. The king of Assyria, Hakara, has implored that Elyon, the Most High God, and believed, beseeching him with a burning in his heart, saying, O Most High God, O Creator of the heavens and of the earth, O Creator of all things, I beseech thee to give me a boy, that I may be consoled by him, that he may be present at my heath, and that he may close my eyes, and that he may bury me. Everybody wants a child to take over their throne, don't they? It goes on and on. There he goes. And the king said to him, O Haker, this is Sennacherib talking to him, bring him to my presence that I may see him. And if I find him suitable, put him in my place, and thou shalt go thy way to take a rest and to live the remainder of the life in sweet repose. What he had to do is adopt his nephew because he wasn't granted his son. So when Haker adopts his nephew, he takes him to Sennacherib, so that Sennacherib can raise him in the ways of being a king and then sit him on the throne of Assyria, where he can be a vassal king. Let's get away from that. Remember, in case y'all don't know, I want y'all to, this is the Forgotten Books of Eden by Rutherford H. Platt Jr. Way back in 1926. the stuff they don't know about. Which one is this? This is the El Cassat. We don't want to go here. We want to skip. We want to skip over. Where do we want to skip to? We don't want that. Let's go further. There goes some of this is Yehuda, by the way. Yehudia. It's one of the old Israelites. But let's go further. This is one thing they don't like to discuss right here. This is one thing they don't like to discuss. And Rivka heard when Jacob this spoke to Esau, his son, and Esau went to the field to hunt. And her, you know what? I'm not even gonna go there yet. I'm just letting you know what's in the text. Esau is important. Why, you say? Let's see why Esau is important in a little bit. When Elyon gave the nations as an inheritance, when he separated the sons of man, he set the boundaries of the peoples according to the number of the sons of God. Do y'all see what that says? That says Beni Elohim. Elohim. Beni Ya Elohim. Sons of God. Beni Elohim. Sons of Elohim. For Yahweh's portion was his people. Jacob was the lot of his inheritance. Elyon gave nations of inheritance to Yahweh. Yahweh took his portion. Remember, the sons of God. Yahweh is the son of God here. 4Q Deuteronomy. This is the original and the oldest. These are the Dead Sea Scrolls. This is where he could not run from. Beniyah. For Yahweh's portion was his people. Who is his people? Jacob. What does Jacob become? Israeli. What does he also become? Edomite. He also becomes an Edomite. It says it here again. We just look. Another version talks about sons of Bull El instead of sons of El. Who's the bull? How does Elyon get the? How does El get the title the mighty? Because he's the mighty bull. So you cannot escape. There's no way you can escape this. When it says what it says. Here it is. When Elyon gave the nations an inheritance, when he divided humankind, he set the bounds of people according to the number of Bull El's children. And Yahweh's portion was his people, Jacob the lot of his inheritance. Now they're calling him Bull El in this text. If I'd have pulled that out, you would have died. Instantly. I try to be nice. Masoretic text, LXX, 4Q Deuteronomy, which is the Dead Sea Scrolls. In the Qumran scrolls, which he never looked at. When I said it at the end, he still kept trying to argue it. You don't understand what's happening. I get it. It happens. Here, let's help him out. Another crucial difference between the two theories concern Palestinian forms which do not appear at all in the Qumran scrolls. This is when they talk about him being a Hittite god, El Kunisra, showing that El was not just the title, but he stretched far and wide. Over here, they talk about him being in the Akkadian. And this is the Papyrus Amherst 63, by the way, for those who didn't know that El would appear in the the papyrus, the Egyptian papyrus. We got him there. We got him there. This is stuff that you should just, if you don't know, you need to sit down and learn. You're not built for this yet. Because they're appearing here way before your biblical text ever occurs. Here, Scholars are always turning to the Sepiru, the Aramaic scribe, to find out how Akkadian was pronounced. For once, we can thank Tupasaru, an Akkadian scribe, for information about the pronunciation of Aramaic. Why? Because they also find him in the Akkadian text, which he claimed you would not find El Elyon in the Akkadian text. These are the small idiosyncrasies, and I'm not going to go through all of this, but we're going to just touch on a few things. Let's see what else. Remember the Moses song? Let's blow it up for you a little bit. They talk about El in this Moses song too. They say Yahweh a lot, but this is when you first get to Yahweh. This is when you first start to reach him. And you know what they talk about him being? A counterpart to Baal. They talk about him being a counterpart to Baal. Look, apart from glory of Yahweh's name, in verse 2, which uses Shem and Kabod, theology, and may reflect the later hand, the next verse lists Yahweh's attributes, most of them standard storm god images in Ugaritic epics. Why is Yahweh and the Ugaritic text looking similar? Because he's a knockoff of Baal. Let's look. His voice is mentioned 7 times, each time invoking thunder. His voice is powerful. It breaks cedars. It flashes in thunder. It shakes the wilderness and it strips the forest bare. In verse 6, Baal's attributive animal is twice mentioned. What is their attributive animal, y'all? We just talked about it. Yahweh's thunder makes Lebanon skip like a calf and Sirion like a young wild ox. Baal's victory over Yam and Ugarit is evoked in verse 10 as Yahweh's rule over the flood. You mean to tell me you're copying verses from the Ugaritic text about Baal and turning them into Yahweh's stuff? The focus is on the northern parts of the Levant, where Baal was most prominent: Lebanon, Sirion, and Kadesh on the Orinots. This geographical frame does not necessarily indicate the origin of the hymn, but it certainly shows Yahweh's control of the northern Levant. The concluding plea that Yahweh might give strength to his people evidences the appropriation of Baal in his capacity of a warrior and smiting deity. He had beef with Baal at all times. Although Baal is never mentioned, the amount of storm god imagery in this short psalm confirms his polemical stance. The hymn is more than praise of Yahweh depicted as a storm god. Rather than inviting Israel to praise Yahweh, it is the entire assembly of the sons of God which is called upon to recognize why we got sons of God. Yahweh's primacy. The scribe who appropriated a hymn to the storm god were obviously not hoping to add a title. Remember, he kept talking about, it's just a title. It's just a title. What did the scribe not want to do? The scribe who appropriated a hymn to the storm gods were obviously not hoping to add a title to the repertoire of the heavenly choir. Their aim was down to earth, as Baal was one of the sons of God as much as Yahweh. Psalm 29:20 displays Baal singing Yahweh's praises, very much as the member of the Ugaritic pantheon celebrated the inauguration of Baal's palace on Mount Zaphon. Such an elaborate rhetorical device would have been meaningless had the psalmist considered Baal as a mere title for Yahweh. And then you can read the Song of Moses on your own and get it deciphered and break it down. Yahweh is usurping Baal. That's why he has the same titles as him in a lot of the text. That's why they're warring with each other in a lot of the text. That's why if you read this right here, the Monotheism of Yah by James S. Anderson, he's going to show you how they connect through the whole text. and how they're usurping everything. Look, Samuel's designation in 1 Samuel 12.21 of the gods that Israelites worship every time they abandon Yahweh as nothingness alludes to the underworld, the Tehom, into which Baal descended every summer when he became nothingness. The Ishabeth, the sin of Sittim, all of these things that you guys never get a chance to read. It's right here. It's right here. Look at that. Elijah all over the place. Remember when Elijah indicted Baal and Elyon gives Baal away to do the bidding of the the other guy, and he's mad and starts to storm and all that. This is the stuff you have to read in the Ugaritic text in order to see the text of Yahweh usurping Baal. Here goes the book right here. I'm just giving you the tools. I'm just giving you the tools. Hold up, we're gonna stop sharing for a second. Chilo, son of battle, my brother Chilo is in the building. I need to come see you and your brother anyway. We need to get some jujitsu in. My jujitsu is slipping. I'm getting fat, baby. We we getting fat, baby. But let's keep it going. Let's keep it riding. Let me share it again. We're gonna get busy. We're gonna walk it all the way down. So even if you're a biblical scholar, you can explain how all of this comes into your book. When you finish, you'll have the tools to do it. Let me see where we were at. Let me see where we were at. Because there's something I want to give y'all real quick. That's early Akkadian literature. They were saying he wasn't in there, and here it says that he was in there. You heard the debate. He's not in Akkadian. Yes, he is. Yes, he is. This is the Canaanite verse right here in Egypt. It says, plundered is the Canaan with every evil, carried off his Ashkelon, seized upon his Gezer or Giza. Yanam is made as that which does not exist. We believe it says Syria. Right here it says Israel is laid waste. His seed is not. Koru, which is Syria, is become a widow for Egypt. We believe this line here goes with this line here. That's what we believe when you look at it. And they still ain't spell it right. They say Mer Nepatah. It's Mer N-E-N Patah. Love of Patah. Stella. That's his name. Mer En Patah is his name. So now we'll break this down real quick. The word ill and the god El in West Semitic language. Yeah, we got readership going on today. It's the best way to explain this stuff. Because when you read it, you're like, oh, the name of the head of the name of the head Canaanite god is El or El, which is the same word for God in many West Semitic traditions and other ancient Near Eastern cultures, including Israel. While El can also be used as an appellative of deity in the Ugaritic text, meaning a common name, which he kept saying, we already knew it was a common use. But what he forgot to say is that it's also a surname. It is much more commonplace, meaning it happens more often, as a proper name. As a proper name. So that would say that Kassad was lying about that as well, and so was Black Sage, Yara. We knew. Frank Moore cross shows evidence of El being used in the earliest old Akkadian sources without the case ending unambiguously. I thought he wasn't in the Akkadian text, fellas. Ain't that what they told us in the debate? The divine name and not appellative. Look, when I refute you, I'm gonna refute you directly. I'm gonna use what you say. You said it was an appellative. Well, the name and not an ablative directly. The divine name, homie. What I pointed out. What else you got to say, Cross? Cross also points out that Amorites use the term Il to denote God, and that Il is also found as a divine proper name in Old South Arabic. Didn't he tell us the Amorites didn't use it all night? Even look at the Amorites. See, the Amorites don't even see. How come he's not an Amorite? He's lying. So when I call you a liar, it's because I know. The Amorites denoted Il as a divine proper name in Old South Arabic. Why would you lie to the people just to win a debate? And that's what we've been talking about lately. Don't lie to kick it. We'll tear up your ticket. We know you don't sit in F49. We know this gentleman got his ticket off our website. He sits in F49. Your seat is back there in S24. You in the bleacher. You in the nosebleeds. Don't lie. Let's go further. Cross believes that because of the fact that Il appears as a proper name in the earliest strata of languages belonging to East Semitic, Northwest Semitic, and South Semitic, we may conclude that this denotion of El belongs to Proto-Semitic. What's older than Proto-Semitic? None of their languages that they were talking about, not the Amorites, not the Akkadians, this is the one. Why would he try to lie to us like that? Foolish. The question of whether El was the proper name of God is laid to rest by the text found at Ugarit, where he also said El's name was not, where El is repeatedly portrayed as the head of the pantheon. Why would El always be the head of the pantheon if he's not the one? See, I'll break your lies down line for line. He lied about this. Let's break it down. He lied about this. Let's break it down. He lied about this. You a liar. Let's just keep reading. The word ill is used over 500 times in the text from Ugarit. The most obvious usage of the word is the name of the divine patriarchal God who was the head of the pantheon. El has a role as the father, Abba, of the pantheon of humankind. Didn't he try to give that title to Yahweh in the text? Didn't he try to say Abba didn't have anything to do with El? You fools. He is seated before the divine council, El's family, as its head. He is portrayed as being elderly and bearded and is often called the ageless one or father of years. He acts as a help to both the lesser gods and mankind. Interestingly, El is also as the creator in a Hurrian Hittite text discovered in Anatolia. That's when he's called El Kunisra. Kassad, take this L. Black Sage, take this L. El sits on the throne with his consort and wife, Artharat, or biblical Asherah. Didn't they lie to us about this whole thing all night long? The progenitress of the gods, El's attribute as a kind father, are expressed in the phrase kind El, the compassionate, another important epithet associated with El as that of bull, found in almost all mythological or epic text. When we walk you down, sit down, because right here, Cross is going to get real deep right here. Frank Moore Cross, in case y'all don't know. His book, Canaanite Myth, Hebrew Epic, Essays in the History of Religion of Israel, Cambridge, Harvard, 73. The abode of El described in the Baal myth as being at the source of the rivers amid the channels of the two oceans. El is seen as dwelling on a remote mountain in the north, with which cross sees direct biblical correlation in Isaiah 14:13, where the mount of the council of El, so the council of El is on top of the mountain. It's referenced to be in the distant north. El is also said to dwell in the tent, pavilion, or tabernacle similar to the biblical Ohel Moed. And we seen one in Tel Arad, didn't we? When I pulled up the two standing stones, didn't we? We'll look at them later. This could correlate with the tent traditions of the biblical Shiloh, Josh 18:1, or even the semi-nomadic patrimonial traditions of the ancient Hebrews. Look at that. Look at that. This is so easy. This is so easy. Let's read one more paragraph. The cult of the patriarchs and the god El in ancient Israel. The connection between the Canaanite god El and the El of Israel largely centers on the religion of the great patriarchs, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Mark Smith points out that Israel is called Israel instead of Israel Yahweh. Didn't I tell you the term El is important in this discussion? It's called Israel instead of Israel Yahweh, or perhaps better, Israel, which they could have named it, right? Which would be in accordance with the other proper names containing the divine name Yah. They ain't called it that though, did they? This suggests that the name of the early god may have been El, not the Mosaic god Yahweh. We know from the biblical record that Abraham started his epic in Ur, thought to be in Mesopotamia, and there moved to Haran. The account continues with Abraham moving through Damascus and southward to Hebron. We are told that God gave Abraham the land of Canaan as an inheritance. How does he get it? Through El. Abraham also spent much time traveling south to Negev and into Egypt, though the story of the patriarchs has very little extra biblical, archaeological, or historical proof. We know that. We're going according to their myth. Let's finish out the paragraph. The biblical record and tradition holds that Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob lived in Canaan. They lived in Canaan and were familiar with the people, customs, language, and religion of the people who lived there. Black Sage, take this L. Take this L, homie. Take the L. Look, we'll stop right here. Furthermore, the important role head of the house played in religion, patrimonial society, and the name Elohim is more fundamental than Yahweh. Remember, we pointed that out because Elohim will refer to Jesus. Easy work. Easy work. Here go Yahweh right here. God of weather, war, and fire. He usurped Baal. Israel, Judah, Jerusalem. Look, Edom and Sinai. This is an Edomite God. He doesn't originate in Israel. He gets to Israel later on. He does not start there. Ethnic Canaanites, group Israelites, El, Canaanite region. Look, what does it? It says parents. It says parents, homie. Who are the parents of Yahweh? El, Canaanite religion. Asherah, Canaanite religion. This is Yah, man. This is an old coin to him with the beard and the bird. The beard and the bird and the word. And his parents is right here. You can't run. Where you going to? Come here, little boy. We need to talk. You could have used this as a roadmap. I didn't even see this. This say Papyrus Amherst 63. It's over. It's over. And I ain't even getting started. I ain't even finished yet. Look at this. The event of Edom refusing passage to the Israelites occurs during the wilderness wanderings of the Israelites after their exodus from Egypt. This incident is situated in the broader narrative of Israel's journey to the Promised Land, a journey marked by divine guidance and numerous challenges. The Israelites, led by Moses, sought a direct route through Edom to reach. Why are you going to Canaan? Why are you going to Canaan? What you going to do? Hate on this biblical website? This is Bible Hub. This is Bible Hub, homie. It's over. The Israelites, led by Moses, sought a direct route through Edom to reach Canaan, the land promised to them by God. You're going to be a Canaanite. Moses sends messengers from Kadesh to the king of Edom with a request for passage through their land. The message is diplomatic and respectful, emphasizing the kinship between Israel and Edom. What did it tell you over here when I told you when they want to make friends through war with El, you become a relative of El, don't you? Don't you? And it's on here too. It'll tell you. Where she go? El's introduced having assembly, palace of Baal, El's characterization in the Ugaritic text. It's on here. It's on here. I don't even want to do it to you right now, but I could. When you want to make friends with El, you become a relative. And when you become a relative, you get peace. You get peace. They don't mess you up. They don't beat you down. Remember Philo? Remember I told him about Philo? And how he was introducing this stuff? We didn't even get to the Eusebius quotation, and we not. It's not even going to happen, B. It's not even going. You was easy work, and we not even done. I'm just playing with you right now. Let's just throw some more facts out here. Let me talk to my people for a minute. How y'all all right out there? Let me see. Great rising, M. Lou. Great rising, for sure, for sure. Yeah, get locked in. We about to break them down all the way down today. We just giving them a few hits, and I'm letting him know it could have been really bad. Could have got really ugly had I not had time. And Sa was pulling for the young man. I know, my brother Sa. I said, we know. Where should we hit next? Let's touch here real quick. We just want to touch this paragraph. We just gonna skip around. It's a lot. It's a lot to break down. This is just one sitting. Evidence that the Bronze Age religion of Israel was different from the Iron Age religion exists in some distinct features found in Genesis 12 through 50. Remember, he kept saying, what about the Bronze Age? What about let's see the differences. For instance, God spoke to diverse people, not just those of the covenant, in an open and inclusive manner. These people included Pharaoh of Egypt, which I've shown before. That's who he wanted to spread the message originally, and that's who he refers to as his people in Isaiah 19. He said Israel was third. Abimelech of Canaan and Abraham. Also, in these passages, there is an absence of antagonism between the native Canaanite population and the patriarchs, both religiously and socially. Furthermore, the important role the head of house played in religion, patrimonial society. And the name Elohim is more fundamental than what? Yahweh. Hmm? Hmm? I thought your man was the king of the first temple period. He wasn't. They would use them interchangeably. And that's why you could see Yahweh worship in the first temple period, but it was predominantly El worship to the point where you accidentally read a verse. Y'all remember when he read it? He said, Elijah, Yahweh is with us, or Yahweh is my God. Why would you have to read Elijah to say Yahweh is your God? And you said it. And you said it even after I gave you the hint. Elijah meant to say Yahweh is my God, you have to say El's name. Elijah. Elijah. Eliyah. And you read it anyway, 2 times during the debate. You big dummy Lamont, you walk right into the punch. Elohim is more fundamental than Yahweh, where the reverse is true outside of Genesis 12:50. See how you don't come into play during that first temple period? You come into play afterwards. These distinct features and others are not conclusive, but do point to an early memory of at least familiarity with, if not shared, traditions of language, custom, and religion. Though we are not sure when Abraham would have first entered Canaan due to conflictions and lack of historical evidence that he even existed, scholars usually place it much later than the Bible's in-text dating. William Dever argues that the Hebrew Bible places Abraham at around 2100 BCE and the Exodus at around 1450 BCE. However, due to archaeological evidence such as Merenptah Stela, Dever dates Israel's arrival in Canaan around 1200 BCE and the patriarchal age somewhere in the early mid-second millennium BCE. If these dates are correct, then the age of the patriarchs would be near the end of a millennium of West Semitic Amorite cultural tradition in Syrio-Palestine. How come they're telling you all the people I told you and the people that he claimed never knew El as a separate deity? This is bad news for you. Ugaritic was the heir of this tradition as evidenced by the Ugaritic text. In the Old Testament narrative of the patriarchs, God is given many epithets which start with El. Also, many descriptions of ancient Israel's God are similar to those of Ugarit El. For example, in the Bible, the God or El Shaddai is depicted as being provider of progeny in the Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob stories. He lied about all of that. Jacob describes El Shaddai as the provider of the blessings of the breast and the womb. In the Ugaritic text, El is also depicted as provider of progeny. In the Keret epic, King Kerek asked the father god El for a blessing of progeny, saying, "Grant that I may get sons, grant that I may multiply kin." And the bull El, his father, answered with kind words, while Keret wept, while the gracious one, servitor of El, shed tears. You don't want, look at this. El Shaddai is used many times. God tells Moses he was called El Shaddai by Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob in Exodus 6, 2 through 3. El Shaddai is traditionally rendered God Almighty in most translations of Hebrew Bible, but Shaddai in biblical Hebrew could also be translated as mountain or mountains in the dual form. Dever and Cross both argue that El Shaddai would really mean El, the one of the mountains. This corresponds very closely with the Ugaritic El, who also dwelled on the mountain. And thus why you call El the Most High. And if you want me to add, it would take you back to the Messiah, where the Netzachah is high on his mountain. And all through the Messiah text, they say this is just like the Ugaritic and the Israelite text. The God of the house of El Bethel, which could be translated as El, Israel, Elijah, Elisha, and Samuel are examples. Shaddai's names also appear in the Bible, such as Samuel. All the, come on, man. It was going to be easy work. It was going to be El Elyon, El Elohe, Israel of Genesis. It was over. El epithets used in the Bible are variant cult forms of El and could be attributed to the Canaanite El. Why did you lie about that? Why did you lie? We also know from Exodus 6:3 that if they can be attributed to such epithets as El Shaddai, then they were probably attributed to Yahweh as well in Israel's later religious tradition. You need to see the relationship between the two. Between the West Semitic traditions or ancestral deities that don't end with Moses and the emergence of the deity titled Yahweh? Is that what you needed to see? Let's read a little more. Let's just break this one down. The scripture previously mentioned Exodus 6:3 equates to the ancestral God of Abraham with Jehovah by essentially saying he was called El Shaddai by the ancients and now will be called Jehovah, Yahweh. This could mean that Yahweh is only another epithet of El. This also helps explain why there are no or very little polemics in the Hebrew Bible towards El, while the Canaanite god Baal is seen in very polemic light. Yahweh is also portrayed very similarly in the Bible to the descriptions of El in the Ugaritic text. Yahweh is seen as an ageless or elderly God in many scriptures. That's how he was usurped into the biblical text, young man, old man, black sage, audience who didn't know. I'm giving you the goodies right here, in which he is seated amidst the heavenly host. There's a bunch of people up there. There's a bunch of sons of El, similar to Ugaritic El's divine council. And we know the divine council are the sons of El, just like I just said. Yahweh also appears in vision and dream to his patrions, corresponding to El Shaddai and the Ugaritic El. We just breaking you down. An extra biblical source is suggested by Smith as evidence of Yahweh sharing the characteristics of a long beard with El. An enthroned bearded God appears on a Persian period coin marked Yahud, possibly meaning Yahweh. Yahweh and El are also both, why is it both of them? Portrayed as fathers, both to other divine beings and to mankind. El and Yahweh are associated with dwelling in a tent, as well as being associated with mountains. Also, when Moses brought down the law etched in the tablets by the hand of Yahweh, he found Israel worshiping a golden bull. They worship in a Heru. They worship in an El. It has been suggested that this represented the Ugaritic El epithet bull. It could also be applied to Canaanite Baal. Take your pick and take this El. You need to look into the Bogazkoy archive. This is where you start to find those Hittite texts about El Kunisra. So you can make the distinction between the two. 25,000 tablets they have. Go get on your job because you get in a debate and you mess it all up. Look, Edom was a region located to the southeast of the Dead Sea, inhabited by the descendants of Esau, the brother of Jacob, Israel. The territory of Edom was strategically significant as it lay along the King's Highway, a major trade route that would have provided the Israelites with a more direct and manageable path to Canaan. We just covered that for you. Moses sends messengers from Kadesh to the king of Edom with the request the passage through their land. It's because that's where your God originates. He's an Edomite. For over 2 millennia, the worship of a god known as El Kunisra is attested. This article will look at the growing evidence for the deity and examine the possibility of the amulets which they find. This shows that Hittites knew him as El Kunisra. But you said it wasn't a proper name, kiddo. Here's the El Kunisra myth. When the young goddess who helps Baal and who probably represents a fusion of the goddess Anat and Astarte. You can't get around certain things. You just have to take the L, brother. You just have to take the L. It's going to hurt every time. It's going to hurt every single time that we have to go into these types of texts. Let's finish it up. That readership, boy, that readership make them move around. But you got to read, man. If you don't read, you're not going to know. You're not going to know this stuff. You're going to just rely. You're going to have to rely. Where is El Kunisra, light of an amulet? Look at that. It's you can't run anywhere. The idolatrous god Elkanah. The book of Abraham tells how Abraham's kinsfolk worshiped false gods. One of these was the god Elkanah. When Abraham preached against the worship of this god, he said that his kinsfolk hearkened not unto his voice, but endeavored to take away his life by the hand of the priests of Elkanah. Who is he? What do we know about the ancient god Elkanah? No deity of that name is mentioned in the King James Bible, but in the last century, archaeologists have unearthed evidence of his worship. Elkanah is very likely the shortened form of the name of the Canaanite god Elkanah Ha-Ares, meaning God who created the earth or God creator of the earth. Originally a Canaanite deity, his worship spread to the Hittite capital of Hattusha in northern Turkey, to Karatepe near the border of modern Turkey and Syria, to Palmyra, inland Syria, to Jerusalem, and to Leptis Magna in Libya. All told, El Kunisra was worshipped more than 1,500 years from the time of Abraham to the time of Christ. I thought he wasn't there. That's what you said. You said he wasn't there. He's everywhere. We know something about El Kunisra from a Canaanite myth that was preserved by the Hittites. Unfortunately, the clay tablets containing this myth are broken, so we do not have all the story. One scholar summarized the story as follows. Asertu, the wife of El Kunisra, attempts to seduce Baal, the storm god. The storm god reveals everything to her husband and insults her on his inscription. Thirsting for revenge, Asertu regains the favor of her husband, who then lets her do whatever she likes with Baal. The goddess Anat now comes on the scene, having overheard the conversation between El Kunisra and Asertu. She warns Baal. What does she do? Then the text unfortunately breaks off. El Kunisra some more. All over the place. All over the place. Habakkuk mentions it, all of that, man. They start talking about Timon and all of that. Let's go. Let's go a little further. This is more about her and how beautiful she was and her white milky skin, etc. This is in the Qumran tablets. This is the stuff they didn't look at, man. Teladab. Let's read this real quick. Regarding the altar at Tel El Deba, it is necessary to point out that it is located not in the territory of Canaan, but surprisingly in Egypt. This is where we found all that information. It was in Egypt. The first excavation at this site was performed just for 2 months during the summer of 1882. The temple was located in Asiatic settlements at the Eastern Nile Delta during the periods of the Middle Kingdom. The layout of the building in line with the typical ritual orientation of Canaanite temples. In front of the temple, there was a large square with a rectangular altar measuring 3 meters long and 2 meters wide. You didn't know? Look, mainly these include the bones of cattle as well as a few sheep. There were clear evidence of pigs being used for food offerings. In the tomb, not a single pig bone was found near the altar. Probably the pig was considered taboo. The sacrifices performed at this altar were typical Canaanite rituals. It's all Canaanite. It's where it comes from, man. You try to get rid of El, but it's all Canaanite, brother. It's all Canaanite, my brother. I ain't even going there. It would be overkill. Let me get to that. Let me get to that original Jesus text, man. Just because I want to put y'all on game. I ain't even gonna go to look. El Elyon, creator of heaven and earth, and blessed be El Elyon, who has delivered your enemies into your hand, just like he delivered Kassad into mine. That's the book. Let's go elsewhere. Let's go. We're going somewhere else. I believe it is. Let me see. This explains the sons, of course, and the use of it. How they get to the 70. Let's read it real quick. Literally and conceptual parallels discovered in the literature of Ugarit, however, have provided a more coherent explanation for the number 70 in Deuteronomy 32:8. How was it? Was it good? The little ones have come and have furnished powerful ammunition to textual scholars who argued against the sons of Israel, regarded NMT. Ugaritic mythology plainly states that the head of its pantheon, El, who, like the God of the Bible, is also referred to as El Elyon, the Most High, fathered 70 sons, thereby setting the number of the sons of El an unmistakable linguistic parallel with the Hebrew text underlying the reading was thus discovered, one which prompted many scholars to accept the reading on logical and philological grounds. El Elyon divided the earth according to the number of heavenly beings who already existed from the time of creation. These are the sons of El. And there's nothing. You going out? You staying in for now? Go out. All right. So there's not a whole lot. There's nowhere you can run. There's nowhere you can run. It's called this right here. That's what it's called. Close the door. Close the door. Go see if he's downstairs. Okay. So you can see it right here. It's nowhere you can run. There's nowhere you can run. Sons of God. As the correct reading in Deuteronomy 32:8. It's that simple. Close the door, baby. In or out, it doesn't matter. But close it. Thank you. Now let's finish this off because it's about to get crazy in here. Don't pour that water out. Let's read this right here. The god El is among other deities, Baal, Asherah, and Anat, mentioned both in the Ugaritic text. You silly. And in LB, an Iron One inscription from Palestine. And the notion of El as head of the divine assembly presents a common thread between these two most extensive textual corpora representing West Semitic religion, namely the Ugaritic text and the Hebrew Bible. With the Ugaritic text offering the most extensive textual evidence pertaining to El, a consideration of that deity's importance for Iron Age Israel and Ammon finds an appropriate starting point in considering El at Ugarit. Let's go a little bit further. In Ugaritic myth and ritual, El ranks as the undisputed ruler of the gods. El is sometimes referred to as king. El's senior status among the gods is indicated by his title Father of Years, Abba, Shinam. Among the younger generation of deities, the storm god Baal Hadu. What is this Hadu doing under Baal? I thought that was Yahweh's title. Huh? I thought that was for Yah. How did it end up under Baal? The most dynamic, especially in the Ugaritic Baal cycle, when Baal succeeds in combat against the powers of chaos embodied by Yam, the sea god. El commissions the craftsman god Kathara Hasis to construct a palace for Baal, and El appoints Baal as king. A ritual text primarily honoring Baal of Ugarit at his temple and involving the human king also includes an offering in the sanctuary of El. Attached to this ritual is a prayer invoking Baal as the divine defender of the city against an attacking enemy. Thus, El ranks as senior head of the pantheon, and Baal remains under El's authorization, even as the god most directly identified with royal achievements and prerogatives at Ugarit. El's decision and authority in the divine realm are decisive, and El's frequent epithets, father and bull, connote his surpassing strength, statutes, and procreative power. That's him. That's El, in charge of the pantheon, Baal being the sun. Not surprisingly, given the kin-based structure of West Semitic society, what I tell you about kin? You need to be affiliated with El if it's a war. You need to become a son. Structure of West Semitic society, the Ugaritic text described the LB pantheon not simply as a royal court, but as a royal divine family, the sons of El, Beniel, and the 70 sons of Atharit. No wonder it pops up in your Bible. No wonder. You can't get around it. You can't get around it. He wanted to know where these sources came from. Here they go. How did you miss them is the question. How did you miss them is the question. The tribal code of Yahweh in Canaan prior to the deity as metamorphosis into the national God of Israel. In this case, the increasing importance of Yahweh would result from a political expansion of the tribes worshiping him, and monotheism would emerge as a consequence of a gradual subordination of all Canaanite gods to Yahweh prior to their progressive collapse. That's how it happens, where it become one in the Bible. However, such a gradualist explanation is not entirely satisfying. The raising up of a clan deity and his transformation into a national god is considered as a common feature in the history of religion, yet it does not always evolve towards monotheism. Furthermore, as observed with the raise of Marduk to Babylon, the transformation of a clan deity into a national deity is generally concomitant with the concentration of political power towards the town this god patronized. In the Canaan of the early Iron Age, no such concentration of political power can be used to justify the collapse of the whole pantheon. So stop telling us Yah was the king in the first temple era. He was not. It didn't take place until later. Let's read this. This is going to put you on game about how we get this first Jesus story. And then we're going to end it. But I want you to understand this. Here we go. The bull seems a very ancient symbol of the God of heaven, and its horn symbolizing the new moon is the main reason for that, because it's a knockoff of a Sar. It takes you back to the bull and Kemet. It's where it all comes from, baby. In the mysteries of the Mithras, the bull is the powerful symbol of primordial unity before the creation of space, for the sun to run its course. The sacrifice of the bull in the early societies is cultic creation, recreation of the cosmos. The sacrificial bull often had its horns gilded, and the horn bucranium seems to have been a very holy symbol. The wild goat with horns, vastly oversized, is an important symbol on the breakers found in the prehistoric graves in Susa. You know what a Baphomet is. The highest god is the god of heaven. The nightly starry vault with the sun hero as his son or younger active aspect or avatar. Figurines from Catalhoyuk show that the male senior god riding the bull. The bull is the powerful symbol of the high god. The god himself is not theromorphic, but as Tammuz, lord of the cattle, and the vegetation and the provider of milk, wine, life-giving water, all the juices contained in the sprouting vegetation. And you guys know Asar gets the wine and all that, etc. And he's the bull. And here it goes for El, he's the bull. And here it goes for Baal, he's the bull. And here it goes for Yahweh, he's the bull. Life-giving water and all juices contained in the sprouting vegetation. The blood of Attis is changed into the violet covering the earth in early spring, and the blood of Adonis gives the color to the roses at the Rose Festival at Gaza, and life to the anemones. The blood of Aias, like his brother Tusor, originally a god from Sicily, basically. This is an old word for it. Is changed into hyacinth, like flower bearing the letters AI, Ovid, Met. The blood of Abel drunk by the earth. You see how those old stories make it into your book right there? How it became when Cain spilled Abel's blood and the earth accepted it and the high God was okay with it. Let's keep it going. That the highest God is killed in an encounter with the ferocious animals or minor God seems to be a main motive in Syro-Phoenician religion. Philo of Byblos, Elyon, the highest, died in an encounter with beasts outside. Now pay attention to this last part because it's very important. Oronus, heavens, died after being castrated by his son. El Cronus, who becomes El in the Greek myth, near springs and rivers, and the blood from his genitals dripped into the springs and the river waters. Sounds like Ra when you cut the phallus so that you can have a circumcision. Ra says cutting the phallus brings about wisdom, and thus born a Sia Heka Hua. And who? Sia Heka and who? You see how these myths get passed down? Here comes the one about Jesus. Let's go. After that, Cronus emoted his only begotten son to Aronis. Cronus has many sons, so monogenesis, only begotten, must refer to a special kind of uniqueness. And he made another son, Mut, death, who died, an object of worship. He also killed his own brother Atlas and buried him deep in the earth, his only begotten son, with an aboriginal nymph, a son called Yehud. Yehud. You might as well just say Yeshua. Yehud, only one, was adorned in a royal attire, sacrificed on an altar. You see how that story made it into your book? Do you see how the story made it into your book? Eric Langture. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. You got the story of Cain and Abel. You got the story of Jesus sacrificed on a royal altar. The life juice, watch, the life juice, the high God's blood, unite with becomes the life-giving waters of nature. Yehud, as a son of an aboriginal native nymph, is the fruit of the sacred marriage between the male god and a girl, representing the land, the country. The same is said by Herodotus about the female part of the sacred marriage rite in Babylon. All in these older texts, where did it come from? The same killing of the high god is told in the Ugarit text, El's Marziah, where El is killed by the theriomorphic Baal, having tail and horns, and hinted at in the great Baal epos, where Baal kills the two beloved sons of El, Yal and Yam, sea, and Muth, representing the primal duality of time and year. El is the father of years between winter rainstorms and summer heat. Sounds like a Sar. In another section of the Phoenician history, Philo tells us about the two primordial brothers, Sememorummus, I believe, which equals high heavens, and Osus is the god. One is the god of vegetation, living on such and such. Can you? It's this should be very visible for you. As they sacrifice Kronos' only unique son, only begotten son, Yehud, Jehud. I told you what was going to happen today. I told you. I told you how it was going to go down, man. So now, now that you have those stories and you have the breakdowns of some of their lies and how they couldn't have possibly got out of that nonsense, remember who you are and be in the saw. Ankwas the Jed, Uncle Jasaneb, Dua Henu for listening. We'll come on. We still got to do some family matters work, probably tomorrow sometime, as we start to talk about the children that Seb or Geb and Newt produce. Ankwas the Jed, Uncle Jasaneb, enjoy your Saturday. And look out, the debate should be up here shortly. Ankh versus Inky. Inky and Lil. Sounds like it came from the Ugaritic text or Mesopotamia. You'll know what it is.